So the Niners are about a 2-point favorite right now in the game, but I think you mentioned this before the show or before you came on. Line just like creeping up a little bit and a little bit more. There's one book that's dealing 2.5 now in the game. So just like kind of on the move back up again. The total has stayed basically the same, 47.5. Even if you haven't bet side in total, you said you don't have a super strong opinion. Just your first pass here on how you see the game playing out.
So I did bet side. So I bet Kansas City plus 118 at open. The book that I bet that at is currently dealing plus 119. So I didn't get a good number. I thought that was going to be a good number in the Super Bowl. I mean, I understand maybe a little bit of the movement towards San Francisco. I think that they have a very clear advantage that they can exploit in this game, which Baltimore just didn't. I think Baltimore outsmarted themselves in the game against Kansas City. They thought Kansas City was going to stack the box, really try to defend the run, and they came out passing, and that just never materialized. San Fran won't do that. Kyle Shanahan likes to lean on the running game. A lot of the schemes that they run in the running game are where Kansas City's been the weakest this year. So there's a possibility the 49ers just run all over this Chiefs defense. But there's a possibility that the Chiefs do, stack the box, make Brock Purdy try to beat them and leave their corners one-on-one. And a lot of people think, well, it's Deebo Samuel, it's Brandon Ayuk. These guys are man coverage beaters. They're going to kill the Chiefs defense. Well, we've seen this a million times this year, and the Chiefs defense held up every single time. It's not like they played no receivers. They played games against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They played Devontae Adams a couple times, St. Brown. They've played a very, very good schedule of fast receivers, and those man cover corners have held up. So I don't think that's a foregone conclusion. But on the other side of things, San Fran's defense is like a way bigger liability. I mean, kind of talked about this going into the playoffs, and now it's coming to fruition a little bit. But Wilkes is just not the coordinator that they've had on the defensive side of the ball there for a while. And they're giving up a lot, both in the running game and the passing game. I know KC doesn't have the big weapons, but they have the quarterback. Like, they have the best quarterback, and that counts for something. I went back, I watched the game between these two teams last year. Man, Kansas City moved the ball on San Fran like they were basically like playing the worst defense in the league. It was that easy for them. I'm not sure San Fran's defense is really going to get off the field. I think KC sustained some long drives in this game. Best chance San Fran has is play everything short, try to stop the run, make KC beat you over the top, and maybe they're not able to do that because they don't have the deep threat other than MVS. But ultimately, I do see this game as like a relative coin flip. If you're going to give me the plus 118 on one of the sides, I will take it. Conversely, I don't mind selling points on KC in this game either, taking like a minus 2.5 in the plus 140 range. With Kyle Shanahan, Andy Reid, these are coaches that are like not super aggressive, not going for 2-point conversions all that often. And you get situations where I think it's unlikely to land on 1 or 2, KC winning by 1 or 2. So I think selling points is an option here as well.
Give me one really interesting thing. Could be anything about the game. Could be a matchup, a player, a stylistic thing. Just something you picked up in your research that you think is really interesting.
Yeah, so something that I found when I dug deeper was, so the 49ers like to rush 4 and they play zone. We're talking about like 75%, 80% of their plays. That's just generally been their MO throughout the season. Patrick Mahomes against that exact formula there. So rush 4, play zone, 70% completion rate, 7 yards per attempt, about on par, but 10 interceptions. 10 of his 14 interceptions in the year, talking about 71% of his total interceptions came on 55% of his dropbacks against these coverages. And then when you add in pressure, so ideally, for the 49ers, if you were able to pressure Mahomes, it should make him a little bit uncomfortable. His yards per attempt stays about the same, 7.3. It actually gets higher because, it's Mahomes. He extends plays, playmaker, he's able to make things happen. But his completion rate drops all the way to 59%. So I think that it could cause some uneasiness, just how the 49ers play. I don't think they're a specifically like incredible defense or anything, but stylistically, I found that was pretty unique.
What is the one bet that you would be most like? Because as you're talking, Connor, I'm thinking of 5 different things, 5 different applications of that potentially. What is
Mahomes
the one
yes.
bet?
Yeah,
Mahomes interception, maybe Mahomes yards over yes also, if he's going to shred this defense and then make...
What's
right?
2+? Yeah.
Yeah, well, look that up. Connor, what's you
get on that.
I mean, I don't know. AKA, I don't have an answer right now, but I'll get one momentarily. Connor, what's the one application that you're most excited to bet? as a result of what you just told us.
Yeah, it might be to go with, so some books are offering passer rating. And I think that that's kind of an interesting way to approach this, because that includes yards per attempt, like yards per completion, touchdowns, interceptions based on attempts. So like his prop right now is around like 99.5 at some books, 97.5 at others. He's gone under that in more games than not. And now, like, again, like I think that statistically, like he could have probably plenty of yards and he could probably might throw a lot, but whether it's consistent and whether he throws a lot of touchdowns, or even if you throw basically one pick, you're not getting to 100 passer rating. That's just like, I was running through the passer rating calculator. It's not it. So if you're basically throwing a pick, that's an out. If you aren't that efficient, like if your completion rate sucks, that's an out in the under. So I think that could be a reasonable look.
Kurt, certainly not asking you like for a bet on like who's going to win the game or like betting analysis or anything like that. But when I say this sentence to you, Patrick Mahomes is an underdog coming up in the Super Bowl. The San Francisco 49ers are favored in the game. What emotion does that elicit from you?
I mean, I think surprise first and foremost. Simply from the standpoint of the way the 49ers have played in the playoffs, where they could have very easily lost both of their playoff games and had to come back to win, and haven't necessarily been, dominant in any one area. Brock, I don't think, has played his best football in the playoffs. And then to have, a Chiefs team that's, won 3 games, gone on the road twice against 2 really good football teams and won, and having Patrick Mahomes, a guy that's been there 3 times behind center. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that they started out as the underdogs in this one. So, I think that's really where it starts for me. But, again, I think that the difference when I look at this game is that San Francisco definitely has the ability to win the line of scrimmage. And so often in these games, it comes down to who can win the line of scrimmage. And that's going to be key, in my opinion, for the 49ers. The secondary of Kansas City, even though there's so much talent on the San Francisco side, I don't believe you want to get into that kind of a game with them and with Spags and the different looks that he gives you. So it's going to come down to that, and I guess maybe that's where people saw this as an advantage for the 49ers. But I was really surprised when I saw that the Chiefs were underdogs right off the bat.
What is your strongest thought as we get set to enter the second half of the season in the National Hockey League?
There's a team that's won 16 straight games, which never happens, in the Edmonton Oilers, which is an amazing run. And not only that, when you think about the Edmonton Oilers, what do you think about? Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, winning games 7-4, 6-5. They're not doing it anymore. They changed coaches in November. They brought in Chris Knobloch, the coach who was the minor league coach for the New York Rangers, and they took off. They're playing great defense. Now, they've had a soft schedule. If you look at the last 16 games they played, Nick, to be honest with you, it's not Vegas, it's not the Rangers, it's not the Bruins, but you look at the scores: 3-1, 2-0, 2-1. They're playing exceptional defense. They're back-checking. They're blocking shots, something that you never thought would happen in Edmonton. I think for right now, that's the most stunning thing. And with all that, there's a team in Vancouver that's playing way better than them. The Vancouver Canucks have been amazing. They've been great. They made a big trade yesterday to get Elias Lindholm. But to me, the story right now in the moment is the 16-game winning streak. They're closing in on an NHL record. I think they'll tie the record, I think, in Vegas after the break, and then I think they would break it in Los Angeles when they get back to L.A. But that's the big story right now, this incredible run by the Edmonton Oilers.
And obviously, like Vancouver, a team we've rooted for a lot on this show, where like I'm literally on Twitter and I go like, oh, we only gave up Kuzmenko? Like that's all we had to get? Like it's amazing what happens when you bet on the team and like the stuff that you end up noticing and rooting for. I don't even know if Lindholm's any good. Dennis probably thinks he's pretty good. Dennis, in the Stanley Cup market, you bring up the Oilers. Well, it's funny because like Flames fans are in there just like, he's washed up, like he won't do anything. I was like, I don't even know how to feel about that. In the Stanley Cup market, Dennis, it's a really flat pricing. There are a lot of teams kind of compressed that are all kind of viewed as having about the same chance to win the Stanley Cup. And the Oilers, by virtue of that winning streak that they're on that you mentioned, are one of them. The Avalanche and the Oilers are essentially the 2 lowest price favorites basically everywhere. But like right alongside them, the Bruins, the Panthers, who we haven't talked about yet, who I think are really good, the Hurricanes, the Rangers, the Stars, like these teams are all, like if you want to bet one of these teams to win the Stanley Cup, they all essentially pay the same, a 9-1, 10-1, 11-1. Of that top group, so let's say Colorado, Edmonton, Boston, Florida, Carolina, the Rangers. I'll throw Dallas in too. 7 teams, the original 7. Who would you bet to win the Stanley Cup right now?
You're giving me 7 choices. That's great, Ken. Thanks. I picked Carolina over Dallas.
How about we make it 8, Dennis? Put San Jose in there. Put San Jose in there also, Dennis. You can pick the Sharks also.
Right.
I think I picked Carolina over Dallas. Right now, because of the play of Nathan McKinnon, who is, I guess, less than a scratch pick to win the Hart Trophy for the MVP in the league right now, I like Colorado. I think I want to see what they do at the trade deadline, because now Vancouver made the big play. They went out and got Lindholm. What does Colorado do? Do they bolster their middle six, get another player, maybe another scorer? But the way they're playing, the way McKinnon's playing, if Cale Makar stays healthy, they've got enough. Now, they've got a problem with one of their players that's in substance treatment, and Valerie Nichushkin, but I really like what Colorado is doing as well. But I think it's great value for any of these teams, because, Ken, your point is that legitimately there are, except for San Jose, there are 7 teams that conceivably could win. Like the Winnipeg Jets, they're playing great. They got a guy in Connor Hellebuyck who could win the Vezina Trophy, which is the best goaltender in the league. Any one of these teams, it's so close right now, Ken. I think that's the key. I think you may want to wait to the last 20 games of the season, see who gets really hot down the stretch, and then make your choice right now. But legitimately, those odds are not are very, very accurate, because there's not much to choose between all the teams that you mentioned.